under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
They're missing you.
Call the meeting to order. All right, first I'd like to say that in the interest of social distancing and Governor Mills's social distancing limitations, members of the public are strongly encouraged to participate electronically. Below is an information for any members of the public that wish to join us on Wednesday virtually. Dial-in log time is 6:15 p.m. Eastern Time, our time. And you can pre-register to join the Zoom meeting. It's on the website.
Is there sound right now? Because I don't hear anything from the council.
I can't hear anything either.
Okay. Somebody needs to holler at Chad.
Apparently not.
We're working on it.
That do it? Can you hear us now?
So, yep.
Okay. All right, we've done the Pledge of Allegiance. The Somerset, the first thing that we have on the agenda is the Somerset Economic Development Corporation presentation to the council on broadband feasibility study.
All right.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. My name is Christian Savage. I'm Executive Director at Somerset Economic Development Corporation. We host economic development activities and services throughout all of Somerset County. About 4,000 square miles, ranging from Fairfield to the Canadian border. A lot of our work is in business consulting, grant writing, micro lending, workforce development, and broadband. And broadband obviously is a hot topic right now with everything with the pandemic going on. A lot of us in the field have been aware of Maine's lag, if you will, nationally, and even in the state of Maine. I think the pandemic really shined the light on the need for consistent and high-speed internet. A lot of us are working from home. There's distance learning with all of our children and telehealth. And so, I think more now than ever, consistent high-speed internet is needed. My organization applied for and received a state grant from Connect Maine Authority to conduct a county-wide feasibility study. And we were hoping to include every town and township throughout the county, which would make it the largest and most detailed feasibility plan to date in the state. We were not awarded the full grant amount we were hoping for, so we had to make some cuts. Unfortunately, Fairfield was one of those cuts. We had to take out the 5 larger towns in Somerset County, mostly because they were the most expensive. Fairfield overall is fairly well served, and your proximity to the Waterville area and a lot of different service providers usually is the result of that. In discussions with Michelle, we're approaching each community individually, seeing if they're willing to support this feasibility study and be included in it. We have hired Brian Lippold from Casco Bay Advisors. In my opinion, the best in the state in what he does. This is one of, I don't know, Brian, a few dozen, maybe a couple hundred of these projects he's done. So we're in very good hands. This study, and I'll let Brian get more in depth with it, really takes a third-party look at different areas, in this case, the town of Fairfield. And we're going to look at actually driving every roadway, marking down and mapping the infrastructure in place, and that can be a DSL line, fiber optics line, and we cross-reference from the 911 properties. And more often than not, we find discrepancies in the 911 properties and what we actually find on the road. And so, that alone is some value to a lot of towns. So one hopeful outcome with this is we will map everything that's in the town of Fairfield. We then hand it over to the communities. We also hand it over to internet service providers in town and outside of town, with the goal of either having the providers, the incumbent providers, look at expanding their service and speed, or bringing new providers in. And our thought is the more the merrier as far as competition. It usually results in lower prices for customers. And so our goal with this is to create consistent and fast internet for all of the residents and businesses and make it affordable. So with that, I'll hand this off to Brian. I know you guys have a lot on the agenda tonight. So Brian, if you want to take it from here.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And it's nice meeting you all virtually. I'm going to transition over to the the presentation that we forwarded. And hopefully, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So the goal of this is really to accurately map all of the existing infrastructure, but more importantly, where are the gaps in the infrastructure for providing high-speed internet across the entire county. We're working through 55 towns and townships. Essentially, every location that has phone service today and hopefully has some level of internet service, we're mapping. And this is just a list of all of the communities that we're going through. The scope of work, and I'm not going to go through this right now in detail, but it starts with a field audit and that ends up with a comprehensive report that can be shared with all of the service providers, as Christian mentioned, both the incumbent, the phone companies that already serve your area, or the cable companies. But there's also about 8 or 9 different providers that provide service in the state that are not incumbent providers. So we'll be sharing all of this information with them. When we look at the town of Fairfield, our base data, if you will, is all of the 911 addressing, all of the parcel data, and then what we do is we go through this data and examine it using aerial imagery to identify all of those locations that aren't in the 911 database today. And believe it or not, every community is missing some locations. Fairfield is pretty accurately covered, but in our preliminary analysis, we did find quite a few locations that don't have 911 data. And that's important because we need to identify all of the potential subscriber locations. The more that you have, the more attractive your community is to other providers to potentially come into the community. In the presentation that we provided, we gave an example using the town of Litchfield, where we previously performed a study. And in the blue is the existing cable TV infrastructure, and in the green are those roadways that don't have cable infrastructure. They don't have the high-speed broadband that the cable company offers. And drilling down a little bit further, you can see where we identify all of the structures that could be subscribers. We count those, we associate them with road segments and so forth, and that all builds up to a database that can allow us then to measure all the roadways, count all the subscribers. And in the town of Litchfield, we identified almost 18 miles of roadway that didn't have high-speed internet, 239 subscribers, and we're then able to estimate what would the cost be for the cable company to extend service. So in the town of Litchfield, it would cost almost $800,000 to extend that network. But then we also estimate what would the cost be for someone to come in and build a completely new network over top of all of the cable and all of those gap areas. And we're going to be doing this for every community, every town and township in Somerset County. This data then can be shared with the providers that already exist or new providers to help them understand what the opportunity is to bring additional service and to bring additional competition to the town. We began this project in January, started the field audit. That's still ongoing. We've been working on validating all of the location data and creating all of the GIS mapping that will be behind that. We're quickly launching into the analysis and generating a report for those communities. And then in this summer, we'll be engaging all of the service providers, writing requests for proposal to have the service providers bid on providing service, and then in the latter half of the year, working on grant applications. I'm going to walk you through what we've done thus far for Somerset County. And can you see the map on your screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So each one of these squares represents a town or a township that we're examining, all the way up to the border and across to Rockwood. And what we do is we lay in all of the subscriber information. So these are all of the, this is all of the 911 data. And for those communities that we've already analyzed, we've gone through and identified additional locations. And then what we do is, let me turn that off. We identify where is cable TV infrastructure, and this is not complete. This is just the status of the project to date, where, let me get this out of the way. So we're able to map on a road segment basis each road segment along the route, and we measure the distance, which is important to understanding and building up what the cost would be. And then we identify all of the roads that don't have cable TV infrastructure. And you can see these are the communities that we've already done. But we also look at where does the phone company have fiber and remote terminals to serve DSL. So in red is all of the phone company fiber in the communities that we've done so far. I can show that a little bit better here. So there's quite a bit of fiber out there from the phone companies, but it's not fiber that was designed to serve homes. It's fiber that was designed to interconnect their central offices and remote terminals for DSL service. But it's good data to have to understand what's already out there. And then we also look at some of the communities have some fiber to the home. So for instance, down here in Detroit, there's an area that already has fiber to the home as well as cable TV infrastructure. And then as an example, up in Cambridge, they already have a fiber to the home network provided by Premium Choice Broadband. What all of this leads to is ultimately a proposal from a service provider to provide service. I'm going to give you an example. In Jackman, Rockwood, down to Greenville, we've identified where there's existing cable in the blue, and in the orange and red. All of this has some level of service, but nobody has high-speed internet along this route. There's a section from Long Pond over to almost over to Rockwood that doesn't even have telephone poles. So this is all a project that is being submitted to Connect Maine for funding to deploy telephone poles and upgrade the service to fiber along each one of these communities. So anybody that lives along this area or has a vacation home, once this network is built, will have access to high-speed internet. So for Fairfield, we haven't begun the process. We have identified, again, all of the locations. We haven't gone through that data to identify all of the locations that aren't included yet, but we'll be doing that as part of this project. So again, all of this leads to building up the data that a service provider can look at, decide that this is a great opportunity for them to build their network and provide competition to the community. So I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, this is Councilor Lawrence. You said you got this grant through the state already, or are you applying for the grant?
Yeah, we received a planning grant for this feasibility study from the state Connect Maine Authority.
Yeah, because
we've already received it. Yep.
because I know right now there's a hearing tomorrow at the legislature on broadband for the state of Maine. So is this program part of it, or?
Go ahead, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay, tomorrow there is a public hearing for the legislature on broadband for the state of Maine. Is your program part of this or separate?
And Brian might be able to answer this better than I believe that is for an additional broadband bond. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah, there's, as you're all aware, last June, there was a vote by the citizens to float a bond for $15 million for broadband. And that, the grant round is open right now for that, for the first half of that. And in July, there's going to be another grant round for the other half of that $15 million. But as part of the American Recovery Plan Act, each community is receiving dollars, the counties are receiving dollars, and the state is receiving dollars for expanding the availability of broadband. So there's going to be a lot more funding come available over the latter half of this year and probably into next year to expand broadband. So the work that we're doing now is preparing to be able to apply for that funding, but you need the foundational data. You need to understand how many subscribers, what the road mileage is, so that you can understand what is the overall cost to provide service to your community, either to fill in the gaps where the cable company may not provide service today, or to attract another provider to overbuild to provide competition using fiber optics.
Okay.
So There's a couple of bond bills at the legislature that will add dollars to all of that. So our effort is preparing to be able to pursue those grant opportunities.
Okay, you mentioned in your presentation between Rockwood and Greenville, there's no poles. Is there any chance of these fiber optics being in the ground, or it has to be all on poles?
Well, as in Maine, there's a lot of ledge, a lot of rocky soil, and it costs about 10 times the amount of money to put it underground as it does on the poles. And even putting it on the poles is very, very expensive, but trenching, cutting through rock, blasting, and so forth, it just makes underground utilities just not feasible. So most of it will be, 99% of it will be aerial and on the poles.
I'm all set, John.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions from anybody? Yes, Michelle?
I don't have a question per se, just wanted to remind council, there has been legislation change that has provided that cable companies with our franchise agreements now will go from 30 houses per mile to 15. So this data will be very helpful when it comes to negotiating a new franchise agreement with our cable provider. And then also the funds available for this are available in one of our reserve accounts and one in the revenue that received for franchise. This would be a perfect opportunity to help fund this project to receive this data so that we can have what we need. So we can discuss that further later on in the agenda, so.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else from anybody else? The only thing I was going to mention is the fact that, of course, the people up there can get satellite, understanding it's only 25 megabits, but they can get satellite for their broadband.
Yep. Well, and I just want to reiterate, as Brian mentioned, this will have the data needed for the next steps. And believe it or not, sometimes these state programs, they finalize the applications and then open it up 2 or 3 or 4 weeks later. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. And I keep running into communities or networks or projects that can't meet those timelines. So to have this ahead of time, I think is invaluable. And as some of the questions came in, we're going to see more money in broadband in the next year or two than we have, I think, in the last 10 or 15, 20 years. And so I'm trying to have communities we support, be ready for it. And so this is one of those projects.
Especially in light of the homeschooling, folks who've had to have their children at home to do schooling. It is amazing the number of folks who do not have access to the internet in this day and age who've had to try to figure out ways for their children to be able to still attend school online. So it's a big deal.
Yes, Steph.
How did you come up with the $6,000 figure for Fairfield?
Do you want to answer that, Brian?
We basically split up the entire county based on the number of potential subscriber locations that were in the 911 database. So it was an allocation based on essentially population.
Okay. That answer your question?
Yes, it does.
All right. I guess then
I'm set.
we're all set.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the first order of business, which is public announcements. The first announcement is non-emergency services will be closed on April 19, 2021 in observance of Patriots' Day holiday. Number 2, Reddington Fairview EMS is accepting referrals for Somerset County patients who are homebound and not able to attend a vaccination clinic and who would like to receive the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 single-dose vaccine. Please email eflannery, FLANNERY, at rfgh.ca Or you may call them at 207-858-2364 to schedule a home visit. And Michelle, would you like to follow up on that a little bit with that, which you had showed me on the Johnson & Johnson?
What I showed you on the Johnson & Johnson?
Was it you?
It's Christine.
Oh, it was Christine, I'm sorry.
The Johnson & Johnson is temporarily on hold, but that does not mean that our homebound residents shouldn't try to make an attempt to connect with these folks. These folks are still going to be actively pursuing resources for our homebound Somerset County residents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And number 3, the annual spring cleanup is scheduled for Monday, May 17th through Friday, May 21st. You can find out the information of what you can do, etc., at the town office, has pamphlets on that. Okay. Moving on to the second order of business, which is public hearings. At the public hearing, to hear public comments on an application for a State of Maine Special Projects CDBG grant in the amount of $100,000. The purpose of the grant is to assist Mainly Handrails, LLC, with the purchase of property located at 25 West Street to expand business operations and create employment. All right, at this point, I will declare the public hearing open. Commentators that want to talk would please give their name and address, and we'll go on from that. Is there anybody that would like to speak on that?
You have with you this evening Tammy Knight from Maine CDBG Foundation, and then also Tom Walsh from Mainly Handrails has also joined us this evening via Zoom to answer any questions that the council may have, and that Tammy may be able to give a brief overview of what is actually going on with this grant opportunity.
Okay.
Take it away, Tammy.
Thanks, Michelle. So the Community Development Block Grant Program is administered via the state of Maine. We get an annual allocation of funding to award grants to businesses, municipalities for a variety of different projects every year. This project is our Special Projects Fund, and the Special Projects Fund is a pot of money that is discretionary funds that have been returned by communities who either their project hasn't come to fruition or the costs weren't as much as they anticipated. So we have that money set aside, so every once in a while a special project will come down the pike, and we'll take a look at it and see if it's worthy of consideration for CDBG funding. I've been working with Tom and Mainly Handrails for probably about 2 years now, watching his growth, watching what he's been doing, and making referrals to him for working with Maine Manufacturing Extension Partnership, just trying to, refine his processes and get everything going. And it certainly has come the time with his powder coating, with performance product painting closing in Auburn. He's really picked up a lot of business on that. He needs to hire some people, get the equipment that's necessary for expanding that part of his business, as well as his metal production business, where he's doing fire pits. Some of them have been featured on Maine Cabin Masters. And just, having that relationship with Tom over the past few years, seeing where the company is going, we felt it was time that we assist him with his business needs. And his business needs right now is acquiring the property that he's on West Street. This will allow him to fix his cash flow situation so that he's able to purchase more equipment, hire more people, expand operations, and keep everything going in a manner that meets his cash flow operations.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Exactly, this is Stephanie Thibodeau. Where is he going to expand? There's the house, and then you have the football field.
He's-
So where does he...
Stephanie, I think Tom might be able to answer that, but it's my understanding, it's more equipment to allow, that goes into the physical building to allow him to expand the processes of what he's doing right now. But Tom, you can elaborate on that.
And this is also more of ownership. He doesn't actually own that facility. He currently leases it or rents it. So this is ownership.
Ownership.
Of the location.
I would like to add that, eventually the plan would be to try to expand. I mean, we are growing rapidly. But like Tammy had mentioned, the big thing is we've taken on a tremendous amount of business since this other company shut down. And basically, pretty much overnight, we became the largest powder coater in Maine as a job shop. So that's a big deal. And there's definitely, it's painful. It's painful how fast this stuff come in, and we're just trying to, get our feet under us. And like Tammy mentioned, more equipment. We don't have enough equipment to put the product out fast enough. So yes, down the road, we'd like to try, if the town eventually lets us, to try to do some type of expansion on the back side of this place. But I think it was Stephanie, and she's correct. There's not a lot of room back here, but I believe I can't remember the lady's name, that the code enforcement had looked into it.
Nicole.
And, just gave us a rough idea on what our limitations and how big of a building we could actually add on in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got a testimony for Tom.
Go ahead.
I met Tom last year. Myself, my wife went in, since we own a business, and we heard about Tom's business, so we went in, and we're amazed about what he has to offer. His powder coating, the burn pits. I own a couple burn pits, and another thing he has made. And he made a sign for my wife's business. And this is a testimony. And when talking to him, his enthusiasm about his business, all his employees, and I think we should support him. This is fantastic for the region. He said he's from Winslow. He wanted to stay in Fairfield area, so.
Well, I was just curious because the document said property, and I wasn't sure which way you wanted to go. So, but it's to own the property.
It's to own the entire property.
Right.
Yep.
And what this does is, so the way this project works is that the municipality acts simply as a pass-through, because that's how CDBG works. The money has to
Right.
come to the town, and then the money will go to mainly handrails. But there are certain requirements that Tom has to do in order to meet the expectations of this funding, and one of them is employment. So he'll be required to take on, I believe it's 4 positions within the next year to satisfy his obligation, so that he is able to have the funds and they do not need to be repaid.
Yep.
Which, based upon what is happening with mainly handrails and the expansion of their business, I think taking on 4 new employees is not going to be an option, a problem for him, so.
Yeah. If you ever been to the Fairfield Post Office, the handrails out there came from Tom's business.
Yep.
The handrails going from the Gerald up to the food pantry came from there.
And
Yes.
he actually did a hotel in Waterville, the whole handrail. He was telling me about it. He did the whole handrail.
He could tell you better of all the things he's done,
So.
but.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think.
It has to bring the trade back, too.
I'm all for it, too. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, is there any other questions, comments from the council or the public that's zoomed into the meetings?
don't see
Okay,
anybody
there
else
being none,
who-
I will declare this public hearing closed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tammy.
Good
too.
luck.
Yep.
It'll come on later on in the agenda. All right, the second order of business is public hearing to hear from the public on a liquor license renewal, Class 11 restaurant, submitted by Joda, J-O-D-A, LLC, doing business as Meridian's Kitchen, 166 Main Street, Fairfield. The public hearing is now open. Commentators must give name and address. Any questions, comments from the public or from the council? There being none, then I declare public hearing closed. Number 3, public hearing to hear from the public on a special amusement permit renewal application for the purposes of entertainment, music, and dancing, submitted by the American Legion Post 14 located at 86 Main Street. The public hearing is now open, and commenters must give their name and address. Are there anybody that would like to comment on that license? There being none, I declare the public hearing closed. The 4th order of business, public hearing to hear the public on proposed revision to the tax assessment ordinance. Public hearing is now open, and again, commentators must give their name and address. Any questions from the council on this, or any talk?
On this, Michelle, this is just an update
Yes.
on the previous amendment we had?
Yes, so the original ordinance was approved back in 1986, and after it was reviewed recently, it was realized, and it basically says the same exact thing. So abatement shall require a minimum of 3 votes. Well, that is, of course, a quorum of your 5-member committee, but it didn't necessarily say that. So it was thought that we should just be switched to a minimum of 3 members is required for a quorum. Decisions are made by a majority of the members present for voting. So the intent was that you had to have at least 3 people there, but that's not what it said. So it's just a clarification of that.
So who's on the assessment committee?
Board of Assessment Review is Andrew Carlton, Tim Martin, Jeff Neubauer, Ted Heelberg, and Bruce Harrington.
And what does the board actually do?
So if someone was to file for an abatement or contest a supplement when it comes to property taxes, it would go to the Board of Assessment Review. If the person wanted to appeal the decision, same as with the poverty abatement applications that the council does, if someone was going to appeal it, it would go to the Board of Assessment Review. So they serve as the Board of Appeals when it comes to decisions made regarding taxation.
So I know there's a lot of interest right now with abatements. So everybody who puts in for an abatement would have to go before.
An abatement request goes to the tax assessor first. And after the tax assessor answers, if a resident did not agree with that answer, it would be appealed to the Board of Assessment Review. And then after the Board of Assessment Review meets, and you don't like that, agree with that answer, then it would go to court.
So the council doesn't get involved in any of this?
No, because of the fact that you have a Board of Assessment Review.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else from any member of the public or town council? I declare this public hearing closed. All right, now we'll move on to the 3rd order of business, which is public comments, which is a limit of 3 minutes equivalent to public speaking. Members of the public may email comments for the council at info@fairfieldme.com by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting on any topic or agenda item. Items may be read aloud at this time. All right, at this time, I do have 2 emails from the public. And is there anything else before I start with these?
There's nothing else other than these 2.
Okay. All right, the first email came from a resident of Fairfield, Lawrence Higgins. And his email said, I am asking and begging all of you on the town council to send out a mailer to every Fairfield resident warning them of the PFAS contaminated water wells. The problem is like a ticking time bomb, and it is spreading like wildfire. It should be the responsibility of the town of Fairfield to make everyone aware that there is a problem. Our Fairfield Water Concerned Citizens Group, which is up to 300 members, are doing all of the work. It is time for the town to stand up and support their residents. Please bring this up at your April 14th meeting, which I have done. The second email we got was from Representative Shelley Rudnicki. Mutual constituents have reached out to me asking for help. They are begging the town council for help. They would like a mailer sent to every resident in Fairfield warning them of the PFAS contaminated water wells. The problem is spreading, and I believe it is the responsibility of the town of Fairfield to make everyone aware when there is a problem. Fairfield Water Concerned Citizens Facebook group is about 300 members and are doing all the work. We need to support the residents. Bring this up on your April 14th meeting. I have co-sponsored a couple of bills to help concerning the issue.
There's more on that, there's more to that.
On the back.
Oh, I'm sorry, on the back. Residents need to know, residents need to know you care and that you want to help. Imagine if you found out that you were being poisoned by your water. Many residents have already found that there are PFAS in their blood work. Please add this to your agenda on April 14th. Thanks, Shelley Rudnicki. All right, so those are the two that we've gotten. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to, well, I'm going to mention this first, and then I'll move on to it, that we have had a situation there where we have really notified, I think, pretty much everybody in town. I was looking, I had written a note to myself, but it's missing. But anyway, there it is. Looking at the whole thing, we've taken a situation where it has been on social media, it's been in a newspaper, it has been on a town website, it's been on TV, there have been a lot of things doing it, and right now the DEP by themselves is doing all of the contacting people, doing all the well testing and everything out in the areas where this PFAS is in there. So pretty sure myself personally that almost everybody in Fairfield has been notified one way or the other that we've got a problem. You know, and I don't disagree with a letter, but I'm going to let Michelle to bring that up a little bit more because she's talked to the DEP on this situation.
So once I received these emails from the council members, and after speaking with the chairman about how, you know, that we would send this notice to each person that has submitted and that you would discuss it here tonight, because this is exactly what the email section of your agenda is for public comment. I did reach out to the Maine Department of Environmental Protection to see if this was something that they were working on, actively pursuing, or wanted to do. And knowing that we had a mailer that was going to be going out to all of the residents in the community regarding the town meeting warrant, asked whether or not they would be interested in paying for an insert to provide information along with that mailer. And the folks that I spoke to at DEP and the folks that they spoke to higher up through the food chain came back and said that the state of Maine was going to put a mailer in a municipality's government legal document. Right, wrong, or indifferent, or why, I'm not sure, but it kind of makes sense when you think about the fact that it's just two different forms of government putting information out at the same time. We did look into what it would cost to send a mailer piece if it was something that council was willing to do. So to put in an additional piece of paper for that mailer, and it would be almost $400 in addition to what we currently pay. So that would be up to the council to figure out whether or not that is something that you would want to do and what it is that you would say if you did one. But that's all I have for you for an update.
Okay.
I have something.
Go ahead.
I know we have notified everyone since it came out, but also should we remember as a council, we're elected by the people for the people. So how I feel, it said in the letter there, what if you feel if your water was contaminated? I know Mike, myself, and Stephanie live in Fairfield Center. Mike's up in Norwood Road, Stephanie's on Center Road, I'm on the Ridge Road. Less than a mile from the Howes Road. I have asked DEP 3 times, are they going to test up my water? They said no. 2 weeks ago, my wife and I had our water tested ourselves because we had an issue with our water. We had it tested through our northeast. And it came up with something different. And I asked DEP the other day, is this part of the PFAS epidemic in Fairfield? They're saying, they didn't give me an answer. So I can't say what the issue was, but yes, this is hitting right now a counselor right now. And my wife and my daughter's going to get tested for this and for PFAS in the blood work. Because my daughter spent time up on the Howes Road with a family that lived up there, no longer lives there, and their family is highly contaminated in the blood. So I know some families up on the Howes Road.
Yeah.
I've only been in Fairfield 5 years, but I've been in district for 15, 20 years. So I think as a council, we should send a letter out. Like Michelle said, there's $400. We gotta find the money somewhere. I'm willing to send my council money every time I'm meeting for that. And I'm just saying to every councilor, they should do it too. Our salaries, our meeting, pay for these letters. And get with Michelle and plus to the lawyer on what the verbiage should be. So.
Anybody else care to say anything?
Nope.
No.
Nothing. I don't disagree. I think the $400, I'm not sure where it would come from, but it's a, you know, it's not a fistful of money. I'm sure we can find, you know, we've got areas where we can find it that it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money. And do a letter, compose up a letter to everybody if that's fine. Like I said, you know, as much it has been broadcasted, I'm sure that a lot of people, but in situations like you were talking about, that's a possibility that, you know, things like that. What does anybody else have any?
I think if we're going to be putting a mailer out, I think anyone that gets their water from a well should have it tested. Not only is there potential for PFAS being in there, how many people in the town of Fairfield haven't had their water tested in 15 or 20 years? It could be contaminated with radon. Radon is virulent throughout the state.
I'm going to mention what the test was, because I moved here 5 years ago.
Sure.
And when we had a water test at the house, it came high on E. coli. Because the water was stagnant for a while.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about the PFAS at the time, because in the 80s I lived someplace else.
Right.
And I heard up this area. And 2 weeks ago, we had a test again, and I'm going to say it's E. coli again.
So anyone, the flyer should have something in there. Arsenic. Arsenic is prevalent in a lot of wells in this area. Anyone that owns, it should say something to the effect of, if you have a well, get it tested. Whether or not you're in a PFAS area, get it tested for your family's health, for your own health. If you don't do that every few years, the geology changes, things happen.
Yep.
You could end up with radon in your well water and not know it. And that will be even worse than any PFAS contamination ever
Right.
thought of being.
Well, I lived in Fairfield Center for 4 years, and I had my well tested, I think, once a year, once every 2 years, I had my well
I
tested.
got radon
on that.
tested at my house already, had to be put in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, so it wouldn't hurt to remind people that they should have their well water tested.
Because also too, Dwayne, the other time, when he mentioned on the Facebook page that anyone want to volunteer to help deliver water, he called me up one day, because he just had his second shot of a COVID shot, saying, am I willing to deliver water? I did as a concerned citizen. I just forgot about being a counselor.
Yep.
I wanted to deliver that. I did.
Yep.
and actually talk to 3 people.
Well, I think at this point then, why don't we have a motion and a second, and then vote on putting a mailer in?
I make a motion that we, as the Fairfield Council, have a letter brought up, proposed on what's going on in Fairfield to every resident.
Okay.
Michelle, is that something we could get done up for our next meeting so that we could have it?
What's the meeting mailer deadline?
I'm going to have them pull the trigger tomorrow.
It was gonna go-
I'm already late.
Print
I'm already,
tomorrow, so-
yeah, I'm already behind the eight ball.
If we add it to the current mailer, it's $400.
Right.
If we do not add it to the current mailer.
Then it's cost of production plus postage, which
Lots.
the current mailer is,
I didn't bring that figure with me.
it's
It would be
1,200 maybe?
1,200.
It's substantially more.
This is because it's an insert in an existing document that we're already paying the postage on.
They're holding it for me, just
So-
as a courtesy for this meeting.
Okay, so
It has to be in people's mailboxes 10 days prior to the public hearing we've declared from May 12th.
12th, so we still have, it has to be in by the 1st.
Was it?
I think they can put together a letter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We can put it together by the end of the week, but we're not going to be able to bring it back to you to council meeting.
No, that's fine.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I need a
We
second.
don't need the...
I'll second that.
Okay, so we got a motion and a
You can do a
second
motion and a second to direct me to do the mailer, and we'll get it taken care of.
to put the insert into the mailer with the way that it should be worded is the fact of exactly what, the way Peter kind of put it in, is that, you know, if you're in a well water area, you should have your well water tested. And-
One of the things that DEP did say is that they would review the document to make sure that what is going out is the appropriate information, which is one of the things you do want to be careful of and mindful of. You know, in the interest of folks that have been listening to this conversation, and folks who will listen to this later, because we do have folks that watch this at home, they're
Yeah,
not necessarily in a
right.
Zoom meeting. You know, it is my understanding that Northeast Labs doesn't test for PFAS, so
That's
that
correct.
folks would not be going there to get that test for their well. So what it should definitely include is who to contact at the state that's in charge of the investigation, and let them, what we don't want to do is advertise a lab for any, we don't want to give any lab-free advertising,
Right.
that kind of stuff. So we'll keep this as generic as possible,
Yep.
but ensure that there is notification that has been given out, and the way this works, it goes in every single mailbox that's in the town of Fairfield, within Fairfield, Shawmut, and Hinckley zip code, so. the way
Right,
this
and
works.
and specifically, you know, DEP is talking to the people that are in
Right.
the area where the PFAS is situated, so, you know, it's not something that, you know, somebody's going to come up and say, oh my goodness, but, you know, they're pretty much, I think,
Yeah, because
in touch with it, yeah.
they're saying there's 300 members turning out. I know Shelley, Nikki, I'm on it, I know Dwayne's on it, some people in the town, so
Yeah,
we're
right.
we're looking at it. I don't want to say we don't care, we do care.
Exactly.
But I think it should be more generic, that you just need to have your well tested, because there are other things out there
Right.
that will
Oh,
be
yeah.
just as bad, if not worse, than PFAS contamination.
The Cooperative Extension used to put out a good notification flyer regarding that too, so I will look at that. That is just a general overall, especially whenever you live in a rural community, and that is a farming community, not
Yeah.
just for PFAS, but for anything.
Right.
You know, where E. coli is bacteria that can happen and everything, and a lot of folks don't get them tested unless they've had a closing, so I agree with that.
No, very important to test
Folks
your
should
well.
get their well tested.
Every 2 years, it should be
Yep.
tested. Yep. All right,
We need a vote.
You need a vote.
all right. Now that we've ended that, all those in favor? Carries unanimously. All right. So we will move on now to the fourth order of business, which is reports from staff and committees, town managers report.
Well, unless there's anybody in Zoom land that had any public comments, but I think everybody that's on here was, I don't see anybody.
Could I make a comment, please?
It's Lawrence Higgins.
Yes. I I want to thank you all for reading that letter for me. And I would like to make one comment. There is not a lab in Maine that tests for the PFAS. There's one in Massachusetts that tests for it. But the Massachusetts lab doesn't test for radon. There's one down in Auburn that does test for radon. I am not sure if Northeast tests for radon.
Yes, you do.
But I truly appreciate your help and consideration for this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Move it. Staff and committee, town manager report.
All right, so March 26th, I attended the Maintown City Managers Spring Training via Zoom, which was a very good piece over financial protection, as well as some updates regarding workers' comp, insurance, health insurance, all of those good things. On April 6th, the Economic Community Development Committee met, as well as the Charter Review Committee held their kickoff meeting. I'm guessing our council representative are going to update you on that after my report, so I'm not going to go into that. April 12th, there was a First Park Executive Board meeting that I attended. April 13th, which was yesterday, the press release for the RFQ for the Civil and Environmental Engineering Services for Planning and Development of Public Drinking Water Infrastructure went out. There was an article in the Morning Sentinel that was posted last night online, and then I have also spoken with News Center Maine this afternoon, and I have a meeting with WAVI tomorrow morning, so it's definitely getting some good press coverage, and have spoken to one engineering firm already that is interested in participating in the RFQ process. To the 13th also, I attended KBCOG Board of Directors meeting. This morning, the AARP grant application was successfully submitted, and then also funding this afternoon was submitted to Jared Golden's office for Community Protection Fund application. This is to go towards what will be the initial first phase of public drinking water expansion. Fortunately, where the town council had done the housing feasibility study and had looked at utility infrastructure expansion, we already have an estimate, rough estimate of construction for putting drinking water up Route 201, so we use that as our guide. This is the funding project that is discretionary money for Congress, where we found out last Thursday what was going on, and then the guidance, and then submission was due today at midnight. And then also, for the last several weeks, I have been working on amending our existing affordable housing TIF. The Mountain Ave apartment project has caused that TIF to have to be completely redone and amended, and then a brand-new TIF written. So to remove all aspects of Mountain Ave from the existing project, and then a brand-new TIF for the Mountain Ave project. So I'm hoping to have that ready for your review at your first meeting in May. So.
Okay. The only thing that I might mention too is that article that we had in the paper and everything today, probably a paragraph or a mention of it in that letter notifying people too that we're looking at extending out drinking water, the water from that and that type of thing too, just to get people know that they're on board to everything.
Yeah, they put it on the website, website already. I saw that other day.
Right, but still, it should go.
Correct, yeah.
Just be mentioned, at least mentioned from that level. Okay, and then all that stuff. All right, and committee reports. Yes, Stephanie.
Okay, on the Economic Committee, we met April 5th, and the community survey has now been pulled. We had about 117 people respond to the survey, which was very good. And we will be giving you a full report on April 28th when we meet again.
Okay.
As Michelle said, the AARP Challenge Grant was submitted today, and we got letters of support from Skowhegan Savings Bank, Kennebec Messalonsky Trails, Peter Garrett, and from David Gulak. And the committee itself is going to work on a waterfront plan. It's mentioned in the comprehensive plan, but there is nothing written up for it.
Right.
So we're going to be looking at 3 basic things: current and future open space plan. Of course, rules and regulations will guide us. And the comprehensive, we will come up with a comprehensive plan for the waterfront and it will have goals and objectives. And we'll also develop a construct for the waterfront. So, and that will lay out a master plan for future development or upkeeps and updated things that whatever we do. As for the Charter Review Committee, Joe Rowden was elected the chair. We will be voting by simple majority. And our next meeting is going to be April 26th at 6 p.m. And interestingly, Joe had said that back when Paul Blanchett was our town manager, he had actually given Paul a report of how we could utilize the waterfront.
Yep.
It was somebody that he knew that had done this for free. And I don't know whatever happened to it, but man, it would be nice to find, wouldn't it, Michelle?
It would definitely would.
Yeah, I think it's out there, because I'm trying to remember back when we originally started this committee, it was in there, and actually before that, there was 3 of us on that. Wasn't a committee at that time, it was, I guess it was a committee, but there was 3 of us on that, it was back in the 80s.
Right.
And stuff, and that's when he was there, and I did see that, but I just...
Yeah, I can remember
Yeah.
Josh Rennie talking about it.
Yeah.
We haven't found it in the electronic files, but we have yet to venture to the
Nothing,
basement, so.
Anything on,
I was to say,
the
would it
fish
be, it was
or-
too far back for electronics.
No, a lot of our documents that, as they relate, especially to economic development, have been scanned and saved in
Yeah.
various different
Yes. Yeah.
folders.
Yeah.
And we haven't found anything yet, but
Nothing in the...
we haven't gone to the basement yet, so.
Or Michael Fish, or
Yeah.
If we don't have Michael Fish.
back them days did.
No. No.
Oh,
No.
They converted everything to CD-ROM and a little floppy.
yeah.
That's it?
That's it, okay. Anybody got any questions, any more questions, or whatever? All right, we'll move on to the 5th order of business, which is the consent agenda. Now, these are items that are considered routine and standard business, and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless a council member so requests prior to the consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered sequentially on the agenda. All right, the first item is item 2150. Ordered that the town council hereby waives a reading of and accepts the minutes for meeting 2021-06 held on March 21st, 2021. The second item is 21-51, ordered that the town council hereby approves the treasurer's warrant number 61, general fund, in the amount of $598,692.77, not limited to but including MSAD 49, motor vehicle, workers' comp, MMEHT insurance, and bond payment.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries full. 6th order of business. Take action on the following items of business as read by the council chairman. Item 2152, ordered that the town council approves and signs a resolution for a State of Maine Special Projects CDBG grant in the amount of $100,000 to assist Mainly Handrails LLC with the purchase of property located at 25 West Street to expand business operations and create employment.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries full 100%. Next item, 21-53. Ordered that the town council hereby approves a liquor license renewal application, Class 11 restaurant, submitted by Meridian's Kitchen Bar, 166 Main Street, Fairfield.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carries full. Item 21-54. Ordered that the town council hereby approves a special amusement permit application for the purpose of entertainment, music, and dancing submitted by American Legion Post 14 located at 86 Main Street.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carries full. Item 21-55, order that the town council hereby adopts revisions to the tax assessment ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion. This is what we had talked about earlier.
I think it's, we need to amend it,
Okay.
yeah, for the verbiage.
All those in favor? Carries full. Item 21-56, order that the town council hereby approves a renewal request from the Central Maine ATV Club to maintain an ATV access route along local roads to include the Davis Road, Gagnon Road, Martin Stream Road, Six Rod Road, 10 Lots Road, Horn Hill Road, Bear Mountain, and Green Road. Speed to be set at 25 miles per hour and date range to be set at the direction of the manager and public works related to posted roads and spring conditions to minimize road and shoulder damage.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, this is something, I remember approving this back when I was on the planning board a long time.
Yeah. I'd like to thank them for the map.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah, they do a phenomenal
I know
job.
I know a lot of residents, they use it, but other residents, I see it, they go up other roads.
Yeah.
'Cause I know that maybe someday they expand this, good,
Yeah, but, and they have the speed limits up there at 25 miles an hour and everything. No, they do a good job, and they are very cautious when it comes to that.
I see people go up my road all the time.
Yeah. All right, all in favor? Carries full. All right. Item 21-57. Now, this is ordered that the town council hereby authorizes the town manager to sign contracts. Oh, I'm sorry.
You skipped one.
I skipped one, yeah. Ordered that the town council hereby appropriates $6,400 for the Somerset Economic Development Corporation broadband feasibility study with funds to be expended equally from the Planning and Development Capital Reserve account and the franchise fee reserve account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
How really will this benefit Fairfield? We already know that broadband isn't very good.
Well, they've got it in some areas.
See, some residents, we have high speed, because I have Spectrum, and they increased it. Because I know, I've been home for a year, my daughter, same thing, from school for almost year and a half, and internet's going off, because I'm working and she's doing her studies at the same time, and it works.
You know, I can see this being really useful for unorganized territories where there isn't a lot of population density. But we're right on the borderline with Waterville. When I looked at that map that had the yellow on it for the amount of broadband,
And that's not what that was. That yellow on there were places where you could potentially have, it was covered, it was a different kind of coverage. It's not actually the broadband piece.
it's not,
Was
it's
it?
base data.
Yeah, so that was the 911 stuff. That's
That
where
was
it
911.
could have
Now,
been.
I thought that a couple years
think.
ago, it was the law that, like, Dwayne had to make sure there was 911 service in all of Fairfield.
Oh, and that is true, but sometimes things it does happen where you come across a house that's been built somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, and nobody's bothered to come and get a 911 address or a permit or anything. That does happen. And then there are some times where people have, some of the data could be that somebody decided to change the name of their driveway and gave themselves a number, but it doesn't happen very often. But there are a few gaps in Fairfield. There is a good portion of the Martin Stream Road that doesn't have internet access.
Right.
It doesn't go there. And there are other locations where it doesn't go. Folks either have to, believe it or not, have dial-up or satellite or hotspots or phones or that kind of stuff. But there's quite a bit of the community that's actually not covered. So what the benefit is that comes from this is that while they've mined all the data will exist, because even the state doesn't have the data. They don't know where it is, which is why they're doing this report. And then the benefit comes because of what they find in the data will help us get the funding we need to ensure that the expansion happens, which basically, it will be expansion projects done at the county level and will be a benefit of that because they'll have that data.
It's a type of a thing, too. Satellite will give you can get your internet through satellite, but their supposedly high speed is 25 megabits.
So a lot
Where you
of,
get the other one is 100 megabits.
So you get careful of sunspots too, it'll cut you out.
Right. And then the
Service-
other, I'm sorry, I was going to say, the other thing is that we have, this has changed so much, particularly with this pandemic and everything else, and it's going to be even get more so. We're going to have a lot of people that, to make a living, are going to be working from home, and they're going to have this
They're
connection.
saying-
And if they're sitting out in the middle of the boonies, even a satellite isn't going to do them any good to be able to work.
so
Go
there's
ahead, I'm sorry,
economic
Michelle.
development features to it. And then you have to understand too that, service providers have the ability to throttle back the flow of data that comes to your home. When you pay for a service, you pay for so many megabytes, you can pay for higher level service, lower level service, that kind of stuff. With the pandemic, a lot of those gates, so to say, were opened, simply because of the fact that they were mostly dealing with, in order to keep the economy going and folks working from home, they needed to have the ability to have that service.
Right.
When the world starts to get back to whatever is the new normal, a lot of that is going to change, and they'll throttle back those services that people were paying for. So instead of the 100 megs that you're getting now, you'll actually get the 15 megs you've been paying for, and they'll fix that. But the other piece that it does with this data is, one, for the franchise piece, because I can assure you that Spectrum's not going to give it to us. And they won't tell you where their clients are. They won't tell you where they serve and where they don't serve and where they need to expand to. But if you want them to expand, you have to tell them where they need to go as part of that agreement. The other piece of it is that, like John said, the economic development factor is that we do have a lot of folks that are buying property here in town from out of state simply because of the fact that they know that they can work from anywhere as long as they have access to good internet. And it could also potentially provide us with an opportunity to not have people who have specific franchises. What if it's a different franchise? What if it's somebody else who wants to come in and buy it out? They'll know what they're buying because, like we said, the cable companies will not tell you where their cable is. The phone company's not going to tell you where it is. So that's what this study is all about. It is something that Somerset Economic Community Development has been working on for quite some time, and like they said, they did get a grant, but in order to afford it, they had to pull out the larger towns. So Madison, Pittsfield, Fairfield, and Skowhegan are all paying their own portion. So we do have funds in our Planning and Development Reserve, which currently has a balance of $31,620. And then we have funds in our franchise reserve, which of course is not on this sheet, but it is, we do have the funds within the franchise. So I was thinking that if this was something that you were going to do, because obviously it's not something that we planned for and budgeted for, these two reserve accounts it would fit within those to use that money to fund this project. And then, of course, we will have our data going forward. But that's up to the council.
Okay. Any more questions?
Casco Bay Advisors were chosen by the Somerset Economic, right? How does that go with, we're supposed to go out and elicit 3 bids for stuff?
That's our rules.
That's our rules, so.
So this is a contractor that's been hired by another organization that's providing a service in our community.
I just have a hard time with that $6,000,
Yeah, I just want to make sure
$400.
county taxes don't go up when they do get all the studies back and all the cost. It might cost us some more in the county taxes.
Well, we already know broadband isn't any good. Why do they have to go out and do so much?
Right.
So
other than
it shouldn't affect county taxes at all unless there's some sort of
Right.
county-wide project that happens that needs to be funded.
Yeah, it's
But
not, I mean, I looked at the money and the dollars and cents, but after listening.
It's not. They got a grant for it, and remember, Somerset Economic Development Corporation is a separate entity. They're not Somerset County.
And this benefits all of Somerset County.
All of Somerset
I believe
County.
we do live in Somerset County.
We do.
Yes.
Somewhat.
Yeah. One of the things that I really liked that Mr. Lippold said was that it will actually provide for opportunities for other companies to come in. And I think that is a big plus.
Because I've
right
seen
there.
another company advertising already, China Cable and things like
Yeah.
that, already.
Well,
I
there's
think I've seen one or
AT&T, there was,
Yeah.
I don't know about this red zone thing.
But-
A month ago, they were putting up fiber optic cable. I don't know who did it, but,
Yeah, well, once a study, well, they've been doing it all over town, because there's been, On Target has been around laying out all kinds of stuff. And then the other thing is that once that study is done too, we may see more competition coming in,
which would be good.
because they're gonna look at that, and now all of a sudden, they've got the routes and the maps and all that other stuff, they can, they can get in there.
So if we have the money in other accounts to pay for this,
Yeah, and he mentioned, which a lot of
Foresight.
people don't understand what that is, but DSL, which is, actually DSL is electronics that can be run through the phone lines. You have two, you have an ADSL and an SDSL, and those can be run through the phone lines and act the same way as a fiber optic line.
Yeah, but much slower.
Well,
Or
just a little
TV
bit.
lines.
Just
A little bit slower,
Just
yeah.
like Spectrum does, they do one line.
Yeah.
Phone, TV, and.
Right.
So.
would this pave the way for cell towers, more cell towers?
It could. So like you mentioned, Red Zone Wireless, you don't know what that is? Well, Red Zone Wireless is actually Wi-Fi connections that's through satellite and cell towers. So a company like Red Zone Wireless, which is expanding all over the state, because this will map their coverage as well, what areas do they cover? And if there are holes in that net that gets cast over the community, it would help folks like them be able to go in and do stuff like that, and prove a need that we need cell towers, we need this kind of infrastructure, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
You do.
We did.
You have a motion and a second.
Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor? All four. All right, item 21-58. Ordered that the town council hereby authorizes the town manager to sign contracts with Hyundai Motor Company for the lease of 3 Hyundai Kona electric vehicles listed below for a term of 36 months with no fee to the town.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So when did this come up, Michelle, that electronic vehicles? Because I know I've seen the information on the website, and then this. Did it come up within the last 2 weeks, week?
3?
'Cause
Like just before your last council meeting, the Maine Town, MMA's Maine Townsman magazine, Maine's Town and City, ran an article in last month's edition that talked about municipalities that were having success with grants through Efficiency Maine with electric vehicles that were at no cost to the municipality due to the Efficiency Maine rebates. We had known that we needed to acquire a vehicle for Crossroads TV, simply because of the fact that the amount of work that we have been doing, we needed to find a safe mode of transportation for the station director and staff to get from location to location instead of using their own personal vehicle. So we'd been looking into that, so that started that was so between that conversation and the Maine Townsman magazine was the catalyst to starting the investigation into this. So the station director, as well as the police chief, started doing the investigation into the program, because how could free possibly be true? And how did all of that work? So it did evolve quite quickly. The Efficiency Maine grants are from the funds that the state of Maine received from the Volkswagen settlement that they had, that was announced, I don't know how many months ago.
Yeah.
But that's how they're using these funds. So based upon what we found was, in order for this to work, the number needed to be 0. Well, the Hyundais also had a rebate program, incentive program, all of that, and then with the Efficiency Main grant that was available for each vehicle, it brought our 3-year lease down to 0 for each one of the vehicles. These are $42,000, $43,000 vehicles that we'll have for the next 3 years.
Yeah, because I saw the same thing in Maine, because I know
Yep.
we're talking about it on the...
That's exactly what started it, and we moved quite quickly on this, because we knew the funds were limited, and you had to, basically what you had to do is you had to submit to Efficiency Main. We had to be approved, which meant we had to have a placeholder within their budget. And we knew once that article went out, every municipality under the sun was going to do that, and that is exactly what happened.
Because I know it's the vision of the governor by 2035 that every house and every
So I know nothing about that.
has climate control, it's within the climate control.
My vision is to put all of our staff that need vehicles in new ones and have it not cost any money. I don't know anything about the other vision. But this is, it is an extraordinary opportunity for us. I can't tell you that I know what we're going to do when the 3 years of the lease is over, but we have 3 years to figure that out, because we don't know what that is. So the vehicles would go to and there are restrictions on these vehicles also for the municipality. You can't use them for emergency response. You can't use them for undercover work for the police department. And the police chief can give you more. He's the one that really is the one to be praised for heading
My
up this
concern
project.
is too, have they actually done a study in the Northeast on our weather up in here? Are these electronic vehicles actually roadworthy in our type of weather?
As far as I recall, they're no different than any of the other Hyundai Konas that are front-wheel drive. So we would obviously have to put snow tires on it. I would assume we just put studded snow tires on them because they're not going to be patrol vehicles. I don't believe that the traction will be any different in these vehicles. I didn't see much of a weight difference in them, so I would assume that they'd be pretty close. The reason I chose the 2021 model versus the 2020 was because the battery systems have a heater in them. They have a heat pump heater system in them, which allows them to operate for a longer distance. They'll stay pretty close to the 258 miles per charge, where the 2020s up here in Maine, we're probably 5% of Hyundai's vehicle sales. So in 2020, they didn't have that system in there, and there was some reduced mileage on these vehicles because of the coal batteries. But that was correct in the
How's the battery electronics on cold weather?
That's what the system does. It's a heat pump system, so when the car is sitting outside, the heat pump will kick on automatically and warm the batteries up. It keeps them warm, and it increases the range of the vehicles. It doesn't have to be plugged in, it does it automatically. The 2020 models didn't have that. I wish there was more I could add, but the town manager went down through my notes, apparently, one right after another. The manager does know that Nicole's been driving our 2013, the very first vehicle we purchased as an SUV, and that vehicle is 8 years old. And it's, I've expressed to her a year ago that I was concerned for it. It's not my vehicle, but on the maintenance that I do on our SUVs, I know that there are problems coming with that vehicle. We've replaced the transfer case in it. We've replaced, the water pumps. The water pumps are internal to the engine. They're well over $1,000 to put those in. So that vehicle is getting old. It's going to start having some rust issues, and I had expressed about a year ago that we needed, as a town, we needed to look at replacing that vehicle. And when this article popped up, the phones between departments just started ringing. We all seem to have read it at the same time.
How's it going? Maintenance on the vehicle.
Maintenance, 36 months would be done by Hyundai. There'd be no oil changes, obviously. And any maintenance that's required, don't quote me on this, but I believe the first maintenance is at the 12-month mark. but under the lease, it should cover all of the maintenance.
It's fantastic.
Awesome. There are a few downsides to it, which is the size of the vehicle. They're not, big like our patrol vehicles, but I'm not
Right.
using it for a patrol vehicle. I think, pretty sure Chad can fit all of his equipment in there. And if he can't, there are hitches available. I've researched that, and we could, it's possible the town could get a small trailer that he could use to tow behind it if he needed to. They are rated to tow.
Yeah, well, the vehicle that we looked at just before the meeting,
Yes.
I believe the back seats fold down.
They
So
do.
you've got that whole area, you've got a ton of area between the trunk and the back seats, that whole section in there that you can use for putting his equipment in and stuff like that.
I wouldn't describe it as a ton, but I would say, yeah, there is some room in there. We did look at other models, but as the town manager said, Hyundai had the best incentives currently.
Yep.
And we pushed this onto a very busy agenda, and I apologize for that, but we wanted to make sure that we got on this before these incentives went away.
And the other piece too was finding dealerships that had the vehicles in stock. So we were also
Right.
able to get 3 on hold for us, which is why you do have the VIN numbers before you as to which ones they will be. And that was the other piece, because every municipality is trying to get them, and the next round, every flavor of life is suffering import issues, so we definitely have 3 vehicles sitting, and there is a dealership waiting to find out whether or not we want these cars first thing tomorrow morning, so.
Well, it's good, it's also, it's good advertising for Hyundai too, so.
Yeah, they had, when we started the process, it was 3 days, I think. They had 13 or 14 vehicles there. I drove down and test drove one, and they had 2 left.
Wow.
And I put them both on hold, and then they had a bunch on reserve that were coming in, and this white one actually came in just a short time ago.
Okay. All right, any more discussion?
Well, with this whole idea of electrical vehicles is the charging stations.
Well, we got that coming.
I know that, but I think that if we vote on,
Get them all order.
should we do it together? Because you can't have one without the other.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
can.
can.
You can?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
You just plug it into an outlet.
Well, there's a converter piece, but yes, you can. And we'll discuss that more when we get to the charging stations, but
Okay.
but that's a good question to ask. Purchasing this vehicle does not strong arm you into your next item that you're going to
Okay.
discuss.
That's
Right,
good to know.
okay. All right, no more discussion, all those in favor? Carries full.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Could you,
Let's vote again.
You have to say for, against, or no vote.
I need to know what's Councilor Lawrence doing here.
Oh, we had a motion to,
Yeah,
Right, but not everybody raised their hand.
I've got
Wasn't
4
unanimous.
I've got
It
4
wasn't
councilors that
unanimous.
raised
oh,
their
I'm sorry, I
hand.
thought everybody raised.
No.
Against.
Okay, all those 4. 4, anybody
And
against?
Do I have
One
an
against,
against or an
opposed.
abstention?
He's opposed.
Opposed, thank you.
Opposed.
Thank you.
4 to 1. All right. Item 21-59. Now we move order that the town council hereby considers and awards bids for the 3 electric vehicle charging stations. And if everybody looks at their notes, they will find that
Only one.
there was 3 of them that were bid on. One was to the police department itself, and the other one was to the community center. They have one out here, and that's a dual one, I believe, at the community center, and then to put one in at the town office. If we did it that way, our total would be $38,466. The police department is $1,275, because there are grants to take care of that. The community center would be $1,500. $15,543, and the town office would be $21,648.
Right. And the community center would be a dual charge.
Yes.
Dual charge.
So with the community
So would
center
the
and the
town
town
office.
office.
Both duals?
Both duals, and there's a big difference, and which is why there's a big difference between the price. Okay, so all 3 charging stations do have rebates that come with them, but depending on the service that they provide determines the rebate that you get. So the one at the PD would be the ability to charge all of our municipal vehicles that we have and not be open to the public. The community center and the town office one, while still being able to charge our municipal vehicles with an override card, so you didn't have to put in a credit card, would be open to the public. And part of the cost of this is the 5 years' worth of cellular maintenance that you have to have in order for this to work. So it'll work just like a regular gas station, but you would bring your car to that location, plug your car in for the required amount of time that you needed to charge, and you would run your credit card through, it would charge that kind of piece, and then we would receive that revenue and use that revenue towards paying our electric bill, obviously, that went with that, and then any revenue that was generated from the sale.
Now, if you read the memorandum, the chief is for the police department and the community center, but thinks it's one step ahead going to the town council aspect of it.
Town office, right?
I'm sorry, town office.
Yeah.
That we'll do over at Michael's house. Yeah.
Do we need to do a community center one now? Because I'm thinking, let's see how we like them first. KVCC has charging stations already in town. I know that economically, it's a boost to have something like this down on the waterfront.
Yeah.
People can come in and browse Main Street while their car is charging, that kind of thing. But I really think, for me, I would like to see us try to get our feet wet first with electric vehicles. Have one charging station at the PD that all the municipal vehicles could utilize. And before we spend $15,000 or more dollars.
But we wouldn't be opening up anything to the public.
No.
So it wouldn't be so the way that these work is that if you have an electric vehicle charging station, like you'd be able to go into your car and say you're driving up the interstate and you need to charge your car. It will tell you where they are located. So we could potentially draw people in from the interstate to charge their vehicle, 201 traffic, 104 traffic, Route 2 traffic, those kind of pieces. So then they would have the ability to have their vehicle charged while they are using the businesses that are within our downtown, at our parks, those sort of things. So that's how all of that works. This other one, and the incentives, we also don't know how long those are going to last. The one at the PD, like you said, is a charging station specific, it's just so you don't have to use the adapters and those sort of pieces, and will be specific, it will not be for the public at all.
My question also was on the community center one, is there, because of the economic aspect, and you'd mentioned the cars driving around because they have the setters on there that tells them where the chargers are and stuff like that, could we use TIF money for that?
So that is exactly how I was going to further give you comment and ask you how to pay for it, because that was my big concern when we went into this, was what is it going to cost and where's the money going to come from? Because obviously, again, it's not something that we budgeted. But if you look at the economic development aspect of thinking towards the future and what folks are going to need, would we want them to go park at KVCC at their free charging station, or would we rather have them come park in our downtown to charge their vehicle? So what you do have is you have downtown TIF funds, and it does fit within your downtown TIF project requirements, because you have just general economic development pieces, which the downtown TIF currently has $160,762.20.
Would that be pursuing the town office one as well?
Because that's opened up to the public, yes, it would cover both of them.
It would cover, but I
How many
don't
of
know if we want to
the
do that yet.
stations connectivity, how many to each port?
2, except for the one at the police
What if
station, that's a
all-
single.
Okay, you're saying these vehicles will have the cell and they need to recharge. What if all the recharge stations are all full?
Well, it's the same thing that happens when you go to the gas station. You wait till one's done and then somebody else plugs it in.
And we will, all of them, and they need the vehicle charged, they have to wait a little longer.
That's why we were discussing putting one in the police department, so there'd always be one available for
Right.
town use if these were not.
Right.
These charge stations, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, go
but
right ahead.
These charge stations would allow the town to just walk up and tap a card and the town wouldn't have to pay for it. Obviously, they're ours. But if they do get full, which is happening in southern Maine, especially if you put one out there that's free charging, those get pretty full and people, they'll unplug one car and plug theirs in and, so that was a concern of mine. Basically, we quoted the 3 locations because we're gonna have 3 cars at 3 different locations. So we wanted to make sure that, Nicole could, charge her vehicle when she's at home. I'll plug her car in and let it charge at night. Thad could do the same and I could do the same when I'm at work. However, if we need to consolidate, there are plans in place that we have if that's the option that you guys want to go
Are
with.
these charging stations outside or?
They're commercial charging stations. that go up.
Okay, and also too, for a chance of vandalism, will it be a security system around it or cameras? Because we get chance of vandals.
There isn't. No, we do have cameras in the parking lot that would see Chads. And I
Well, no,
believe,
because the one at the community center is actually, the community center one, actually, the location is not technically right here at the community center. Because as we discussed this with various different vendors, this project evolved. The most cost-effective place for us to put it is actually down closer to the backside of Sunny's and Meridian's, where all of our power boxes for the parking lot lights that we already own, so the power is already there, which is why it's cheaper than the one at the town office. The one at the town office is more expensive because of the fact that there is no outside power source for it at this point. So that's where the concern comes in, is about what CMP would allow us to do for a drop. We have a location, we have it quoted at a location that's right next to a telephone pole, right next to a transformer, right next to that location. But because we worked so quickly on this, there are still some questions about what will actually end up happening.
So that's why my concern is about security, because vandalism. If we get vandalized, that means we have to get it fixed and cost us more money.
Right.
Try to get it fixed.
But we have that same problem with everything. That's why we have insurance.
That's right.
I mean, they've had the ones up at Skowhegan out there for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Up by Hannaford, they got a whole bank of them up there next to the,
Would the one down here on Mill Street be free, or is that a charge?
That would be a charge.
Those would be a charge.
Originally, we looked at this as just charging stations because we had 3 different departments, 3 different locations. And then as we started drilling into it and found out there was ability for us to be able to charge our vehicles without it costing us, other than, general electricity, but could still have the opportunity to provide a service to the community and put the charge piece in. And so that's kind of how that all evolved. So all of them would be, both of them would be charging stations, other than the one at the police department, which is why it's so much cheaper. Mostly what you're paying for with the charging stations is the 5 years worth of maintenance. It's not necessarily just the maintenance, but it's the 5 years worth of cell phone connection that we have to have in order, because when you swipe your credit card, that's how it gets to the company, it's through a cell phone connection. So that's where a bunch of that cost comes into play too. And so it's that 5-year time frame that helps support those two years.
We might not see it in the next 6 months, but, 3 or 4 years, 3 years down the road, why?
So,
And that's the
it's
thing.
hard. I mean, there's really no way for me to tell how many people are going to utilize that. We could put that out there
Exactly.
and nobody
can you get
would
those
use it.
numbers for us, chief? We'd like to know exactly how many will.
I'll get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
So do we really need 3?
Some jurisdictions
No.
do offer free charging. Some larger municipalities have charging stations here and there.
Well, if you wanted to bring people down and to your restaurants and stuff like that, if you offered a free charging station, people would come down, do it right there, and then they're there for an hour and a half to walk around town and spend some money, stuff like, so that's something in the future that we could look at.
Right, but we certainly don't currently have the,
Right,
the money to pay for the
Absolutely.
electricity of a free charging
Yeah.
station. So when we look at it being no cost to the municipality, when I say that, there's still the cost of the electric bill. But when you take what we pay for gas to put in our current vehicles, as opposed to electricity, and how that balances out, so.
Yeah.
So, down the road, I know it's electric, these can be electric, be charged by solar, or just be all electric?
I do not know the answer to that
They,
question.
they do have solar charging stations. I was floored when I saw the prices of these, and I haven't asked about the solars. But yes, that is a possibility. I mean, it's always possible that we could utilize a charging facility somewhere around here that has solar, or put solar on one of our buildings at some point.
Well, we have a landfill we could put solar on, and that would help.
We're also investigating, going forward with this, is that, is there a possibility that there's a private-public partnership that we can do to help fund some of this process as well? Because like I said, up until last week, I was not sure how we were going to pay for these. I really didn't know, because I also was floored when I saw what the price was when they came in, simply because of the fact that I haven't been involved with anybody that's had a process of having these installed anywhere. So it is definitely a forward, future-thinking move to go with this, but I do think it is the way that it's going, and I do think it's a great opportunity to be able to provide an economic development activity that could really help, folks who want to come to our community, because like I said, right now, if you come to Fairfield and you have to charge your electric car because you've come in from out of town, you have to go sit at the parking lot at KVCC.
Yeah.
And that is your only option.
And we could get some revenue from it down
We
here.
could.
Yeah.
And like we said, we don't know how much it's going to be, but
It's coming. The future's coming. It's going to happen whether we drag our feet and go kicking and screaming. It's going to happen. Electric vehicles are here. If we can bring some business to downtown and maybe recoup some money from it, I don't see where we're behind, we're not, following the rest of the pack at this point. We're not playing catch-up.
And it's being spent, we're using the TIF money to,
The only thing we can offer the people is the eateries, that's it, no other retail, just the eateries.
However, we are going to be working on a waterfront plan, and just having the
Yeah.
availability of electric vehicle charging is a plus.
yeah, that too. All right, so I would look, I guess what I'd do is look for a motion to do the police department and community center bids using TIF money, and at this point in time, not do the town council.
I can live with that.
Office, yeah.
I can live with that.
So we're looking for that motion.
So moved what he said.
And I'll second that. Thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? 4 in favor, all those opposed, 1 opposed. All right,
And that is coming out of the downtown TIF fund.
downtown.
For economic development.
Yeah,
Yes.
John,
yes,
can I back up a bit?
I give up.
You can go clear to the wall.
Well, that's true. However, I just had a thought.
Yeah,
Nicole's car is going to be going out to bid, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it okay to designate the money you get from that for studded snow tires?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's okay to designate it for a couple of different things, actually. And one of the things that I was thinking about, as we're thinking about a solution as to what do we do in 3 years, also whether or not it gets dedicated towards a actual vehicle replacement account. Because one of the things that we've mentioned several times when we review the budget is that the town office, so the town office as a department, does not have a reserve account, and the building itself doesn't have a reserve account. So it'll be a piece that we'll need to look at. But we were gonna have to replace that vehicle anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yes, it could be put towards care and maintenance of different things.
Okay. I'm done now, John.
All right, and we'll move on to the item 21-60. Ordered that the town council hereby approves and accepts. Thank you, Chief.
Oh, he's not leaving.
Approves and accepts from the Maine Fire Service Institute for a grant in the amount of $427,907,000 to be applied to the fire training facility.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Awesome.
So, how's the plans coming on the new facility?
Chief Bickford is on via Zoom. Do you want to take the question?
Is he going to
Apparently not.
He's getting off mute.
He's going to sleep.
Coming off of mute.
There, wow.
There he is.
Couldn't find my mute button. We had a good Zoom meeting the other day, Michelle and I, the director of MFSI, the company that provides the building that we'd like to build, and came up with a plan for the summer. The state has funded 100% of what they said they would fund when we first applied for the grant. There was a touch and go where there was going to be a 10% cut like every department in the state. It's my understanding MFSI will have the money in their account at the Southern Maine Community College as of July 1st of this year. So we will go from there. We did discuss, and I'm sure Michelle will bring it up, using the contractor that MFSI bid out the project to, because there was 4 of these, 3 facilities and a repair to another facility that was bid out when the grant was first approved through the state. So that saves us from re-bidding the project and maybe getting a contractor and maybe not getting a contractor. Right now, as you know, they're all pretty busy. And with the prices increasing, it could cost us a lot more money than this contractor agreed to back in the beginning. There is a slight increase in his cost, but they say that will be around 10%, which isn't too bad at all.
So this project has been going on for quite some time.
Yes.
We've been discussing this, and we've been waiting for this moment for a very long time, actually.
Yes, we have.
It has evolved tremendously because of what has been done with the grant process, with the bid process, all of that, and how they've bid out. Basically, there were only 4 municipalities that received grant funds with this round of funds, which is the 4 facilities that the state bid out. So using their process knows that we're in compliant with everything that has to be done for the state money. So that's a great piece. It's Reed and Reed that is the contractor. So they're a reputable firm. They've been around for a long time. Everybody is, like Dwayne said, they were on the meeting the other day, as well as the folks that actually create these training facilities. We have a little bit of work that needs to be done, because while we have done the site design and those sort of pieces, we did not do core samples at the location. So we will be contacting geotechnical for core samples that need to be done so that they know how they have to design the concrete to hold up the foundation. This project will go even further at some point in time with an actual classroom and paving of a parking lot and all of this. But what we're really truly concentrating on is the construction of the training facility. The way that steel is right now, that's where some of the delays come in. That's where a little bit of the markup comes in. But the hope is that they will start construction before the end of summer, end of fall. So we will definitely be underway this year. Some of it was, they did do it tomorrow, but they have a few supply issues, but, and then again, the remainder of this, because we have been working on this for so long, the remainder of the cost, of the full cost of the project, including the classroom and the other pieces, we have gone to Somerset County looking for their TIF funds for investments from the unorganized territories because of all of the firefighters in the region that will have closer access to training, as well as the operational, use agreements with local municipalities that will help fund its operational costs as we go forward. And it's a huge opportunity to be able to provide training to the firefighters and first responders in the region, because it's not just firefighters that'll be able to use this facility. We've had requests from all walks of first responders all over the state, so it's a good piece.
Okay, excellent. Any more questions for the chief? More discussion? There being none, all in favor? Carries 100%. All right. We'll move on to our 7th order of business, which is council workshop and other business. The first order of business on that one has been withdrawn. So we'll move on to the second order, which is discuss Maine Municipal Association Executive Committee and Vice President.
Okay.
It's just simply the request for anybody who is interested in possibly being on MMA's executive committee and their vice president position that is opening up. It's an annual request that we get every year. It's not always the vice president that is open. But there's always, Maine Municipal Association does submit requests for folks that are interested in being as a part of their executive committee to submit letters of interest, and this is outlining what was in your packet, outlined the process for all of that. And it was just simply asked that it go on your next agenda for discussion if anybody's interested.
Anybody
So,
interested?
if anybody's interested, let me know,
No.
we'll help you through the process.
Nope.
So,
No one's interested? No.
thank you, our job is done.
Okay.
I do enough already.
Other council business, we'll start with Stephanie.
Well, before this meeting began tonight, all I could see was dollar signs in front of me, because there were some hefty amounts there.
Yes.
And I think it's important for us to remember that we have certain mechanisms built into our budget with TIF funding, which is going to help pay for the charging stations. The cars essentially are free, and that is a good thing. Looking into the future, because I was dead set against this whole broadband thing, but listening to Mr. Lippo talk about it, it really is something that I think is needed for the future of our town. It's going to be money that's well invested. It's money that is coming out of accounts that we already have that will pay for it. So I think financially we're okay. It's been a very futuristic meeting, to tell you the truth. That car is something else. Would I want one? No. Can't hear it. I'm done.
Michael?
I just wanted to say I think it's a huge step forward for the town of Fairfield, getting into EVs and charging stations. We're at a point in the world right now where it's either you lead, follow, or you get out of the way. It's happening whether we want it to or not, and I'm glad to see that we can do something in economic development to get things started down this road. And I think it's a benefit to the residents of the town of Fairfield for that flyer to go out to remind all of them to have their wells tested, regardless of where they're located in the town, to find out if there is any contaminants in their well water. It's well worth it.
Agreed.
Thank you.
I agree. And the only other thing that I was going to mention, and in case, that's just in case somebody hasn't seen this within our area that's either on Zoom or whatever, is that they did pull the request to take down the dams. So we're not going to lose that tax money, and the state pulled back and has decided that they're not going to push to remove the dams up at Shawmut and Skowhegan and Winslow.
Yeah, they jumped the gun.
That's as of right now.
As of right now.
Well, that's, I mean, at least it's a stationary point at this point, and then we can look at it as we move on later on.
It's one of those pieces where we won the battle, but we haven't necessarily won the war yet, so.
Right, I understand that, but I just, just so everybody knows.
It's a stepping stone in a way.
That's right.
We've won
The
the
worry is
first
over.
battle.
It was a good victory.
Take a little good news, right?
It was a good victory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good victory.
Okay.
I just want to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up now. On the Legislation Policy Committee, we had some meetings in March and by emails. Since the governor and the legislature has got their budget, the legislation committees are still meeting.
Yes.
So us Legislation Policy Committees are meeting rapidly by emails. And they have one today, they're having another one tomorrow. Because the fall legislature is going back in session the 28th of April to vote on all the bills that are out there. Because we've been through 300-something bills in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and there's...
I got some bill, I circled some, we got some today. The biggest one is, the concern is LD 1388, that came out 100% through the Judicial Committee about the act to require testing for public drinking water. That's still, that in a public hearing. The other one came through the Judicial Committee, 100% on going against the companies who produce the PFAS. Also too, another one is LD 857, an act to create a municipal grant program for sustainable economic development. That's, the hearing was actually today. Another one is on us, for us veterans, the exemption for excise tax on certain disabled veterans. Another one is act to promote the LD 1118, which I mentioned before, is about promoting reliable high-speed internet. So that's right now, just wait and see what the full legislature will come up on the 28th on all these bills, because they're going to come up with about 500 bills in one day. It's going to be a marathon.
Yeah, they didn't do any, well, unfortunately, the first 2 months of the year, they didn't do a darn thing.
They got
the first month, they didn't.
They got millions and millions of dollars tied into these bills.
They're supposed to be out at this point in time. They're not even supposed to be in session.
Right. So I'll determine too if they go up to session again. Our last meeting is in May.
Yeah.
Possibility. So that's it for me.
Definitely. Mark?
Good.
You're good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, and I've got one more thing.
Yes.
You had your turn.
I know, but this is worthy.
Okay.
I would like to thank Public Works for doing such a fine job sweeping up the sides of the road. I mean, it's so nice to just walk on tar now. And they're very meticulous when they're working, and I surely appreciate it. So thank you, Public Works.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job.
I'm not sure when they don't, but I'm sure town manager would let us know if they didn't.
Come on.
They're busy.
Maybe not. It's a personnel matter, probably wouldn't.
Okay.
They are doing an outstanding job. They're still working and they're hard at it, going all through town.
Yeah, they are.
They're hoping within the next week, possibly, depending on the weather, to be able to finish up.
Yeah, we're talking another, the weather this weekend,
All right, the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, April 28th, 2021, to be held as a hybrid meeting via Zoom in council chambers at 6:30 p.m. At this time, the council will recess and sign all documents that require the signature of council members. We are in recess.
I need a motion and a second.
I make a motion, we go recess.
Second.